I mean, I've never worked in a union. Everybody I know, this is anecdotal at best, but everyone's talking about how they can't afford paid off, truck in the driveway, dirt bike in the shed, whatever the hobby the thing is, they got it. They're good to go. Normally, it's because those jobs are necessary and you absolutely need them. Remember this word? Essential. Port workers are absolutely essential. If that's the case, yeah, $70 an hour is not nuts.
The Stansberry Show.
And look what you've become, a schmuck.
On Rock 106.9.
Apparently, physical copy of entertainment may be one of those conversations. I can't keep up with this anymore. Every other month, I read a new article. The kids are into vinyl again. And then, you read next month, well, they're buying the albums, they like owning them, but none of them even have a record player. It's like, oh my God, what the hell's going on, right? And then, bands are putting out special edition packages of old albums, and, Motley's got cassette, versions and all the, because, CD versions, all the stuff, and they fly off shelves. I can't make sense of what's happening with the physical entertainment. I like having control leverage, one may call that. Once I buy it, it's like I watch it if I want, I don't, you can't mess with it in and out. And I mention this because they say here, pulling from The Guardian, that the CD may officially be over. Because the last bastion, they said, for the CD was really the car. And apparently the last car to include a CD player has already been built. Apparently it's a Subaru Forester. They are replaced infrequently. Cars have always extended the life of old audio technology. Meaning, I still have an 8-track tape in here. I remember my brother when he got he got his Trans Am. And people were like, dude, it's great. When are you going to replace that though? We still, right? And that kind of thing. And that is true, right? Because my car still does have a CD player in it, and I'm happy about it. I don't use it all that often. I'm still probably because I like the FM. I like the FM there. I like radio, right? Solid, steady, works. I will stream through my phone through my dash. I will do that too. And I like the physical stuff, so I have CDs. It's just, in the car and, changing stuff, moving around, and, having had over 200 CDs, it was a lot more than that actually, stolen from the back seat of a car once. I'm a little like, that stuff doesn't go out there, right? Like it doesn't do that. We talked about wanting an older car for a lot of reasons, It was about a week ago, I said I want less tech in a car. Maybe not my everyday drive. I want one laying around where it's like less tech, kind of reliant, old 5-speed, got this, got that. And I would like a CD player. I'm a vinyl guy, I like vinyl, but I will say the best musical format for most people was the CD. It was perfect. It was perfect. The package still big enough to where the image and the album art matter. Now all that stuff matters a lot less these days. I grew up in an era where album covers could sell you another $500,000. For sure. Just off of scaring your parents alone, you could sell 1,000 units. CDs shrunk it, yes, still got it. Included the booklet, couple of band photos, a little bio, a little this, a little that, some liner notes, so you get some lyrics. I like that. Perfect shape to bust up a few lines of cocaine on top of, down the road you go, right? It was perfect for the time, right? Perfect. In the 70s, it was more weed, got the album cover a little bigger, breaking it up, kind of roll it. I worked for a sales manager once in this industry. It was like, follow the music packaging because it follows the drugs. And I was like, she's on the stuff, man. She kind of opened my mind to that. I feel like the CD also, the vinyl is a commitment. You put the needle on, you can move it around, you can go this, but most of the time you don't because it's a pain. So you're listening to it. One of the reasons I like that is like I end up finding out I like songs more than you think you do when you don't bounce around as much. But the CD is really convenient. Even the CD6, you need to be doing this. And the truth is, it is the more convenient format. Perfect for the car. And I was saying it like a Prelude, like a Honda Prelude, old bound. a keyword, 9 a.m. this morning, rock the bank with me here at 9. I've said forever that part of the reason I'm all right with like lyrics or what happens, this and that, is that I view albums the way people view Shakespeare. They're art to me. I understand not everybody does it. A lot too. I think CDs were, ironically the name, enough, still big enough. I know we don't even like going to stores now, but okay. You could make the argument that once you got a little further past that, like some of you might not even remember, like thumb drive. A buddy of mine still has a radio in his car. He just knew. I am not. For some reason, I am romantic a little bit about my record collection, the artwork, and the bands, and who was on tour with who, and a lot of that stuff. And have the ability to actually possess it. Why would you not want to do that? You don't need to own it, just listen to it here, pay us the this, and it's all this, and it's all that. You don't have to have copies of it, and you don't want that clutter around your house. Cluttered room, cluttered mind, you don't want the clutter, right? It to me is like the girlfriend who's like, yeah, we're boyfriend and girlfriend, but don't tell anybody. No, it's not that. It's just once kind of hot, right? Because the hell up to something, right? And so like when the music companies are like, nah, you don't need to own it. Nah, give us the money still. Pay us this, pay that. Yeah, we'll still rip off the artist. Up to something. And again, I kept talking about how, you see all on social media talking about how 65-year-olds who are buying music libraries for hundreds of millions of dollars, how they're the dumb ones. Okay, well, again, did you see that story last week about YouTube? Thousands of channels and creators hit with their videos just started disappearing. The music's just muted in the background. I told you, it's like they're coming. They're coming. It's not going to be fast. It'll happen incrementally. They are coming. And when I've seen, and this will sound crazy and tinfoil hat to a lot of people, but when I have seen what has happened to having an opinion out loud in this country, if a war on art, I don't think is, look, I don't think it's necessarily a guarantee, but a war on art, I gotta tell you, it could happen. And if it does, I'd like to be one of the guys that's holding some product. Right? That's always been my take. You hear people say this, $15 for a CD, 3 songs are good. And I laugh every time I hear that. Every time I hear that. Another way to say what $5 a piece. I gotta tell you, if you get 15 songs on an album, one of them's a banger that you love forever, that's worth $15. Pay people a fair share, livable wage. Not the artist, though, right? Not them. Well, they're not even getting it, the record company and this and that. They're doing all right. Nobody gets paid their fair share in America. Welcome to it. So they're getting ripped off just like you and I are getting ripped off, but their version of ripped off's a little better than yours, a little better than mine, right? Yeah. They should be getting paid way more money on their end for what they've created, sure, like any other employee. That's my thing, is like anything I love and I have the ability to possess, own, control, I want. We're in a world now where you don't even have the AI robot in your house yet. They're already yelling at you about being nicer to it before you get it. You don't think a war on the kind of songs you listen to could be happening? When they control it all. I don't know, man. I know. I sound crazy. Woody Harrelson at the end of 2012. It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful, man. Yeah, I know. I know. That guy's not crazy. That guy's early.
The Stansberry Show.
I just wish I hadn't drunk all that cough syrup.
On Rock 106.9.
right around the corner, Halloween, is people will kind of mock up the Spirit Halloween costume package and be like, yeah, this should be the costume, and what do we think? And it's kind of like the new version of the Real Men of Genius, the old Bud Light commercial, right? Kind of mocking things, and, memes have kind of taken over, that whole kind of, parody. That's fine, right? You'll see that. So you would think that Spirit Halloween, the company that kind of comes in after a store kind of goes out of business, they hang a banner that, slumps over the front doors, and, that people kind of mock up their packaging and make fun of every year online. You would think that they would have a sense of humor. Apparently not so much. Or everybody's in cahoots. I guess we can figure this out together. SNL, apparently season 50, had their premiere. Now, I know a lot of people these days like to talk trash about SNL. It's not as good as this. I honestly haven't watched an episode of SNL in so long that I couldn't tell you. It might be the best it's ever been. I would bet against that, but it could be. I wouldn't know. I haven't been a steady viewer of it for a long time. I wasn't even really all that much of a steady viewer during the Will Ferrell years. Like, Sandler, Spade, Rock, those guys, that was all right. I liked Carvey and all of that, and it got me into, Sandler, Spade and all, and then it was like, all right, kind of on to something else. But apparently, SNL opened with a spoof on Spirit Halloween. And they say here, now look, this will not obviously sell as well as seeing the skit, but you know how it opens. Times may be good on Wall Street, but on Main Street, you and I are struggling, right? Help is on the way here. We're providing vulnerable fog machines and costumes of famous characters. Hits. Even for people who are like, oh, SNL, I don't know, they did that thing 5 years ago, I haven't seen it since, but ever since then, I don't like them anymore, and it sucks, and it's, SNL is supposed to do is spoof things like Spirit Halloween. I mean, you got to go pretty far out of your way to make a joke out of Spirit Halloween, but okay. But they feel like they were able to do that. And I do too. The big continues, creating 6-week jobs for some America's hardest hit perverts. Again, a funny line. Spirit Halloween apparently unable to take this in stride, and has put out a version of their costume on their socials. And this feels like it might be tongue-in-cheek and not necessarily getting so angry. But it says, irrelevant 50-year-old TV show. Includes dated references, unknown cast members, shrinking ratings. SNL 50, the anniversary season. Adult size costume, right? That whole thing. I can't tell if that's actually them not being able to take taking themselves too seriously and not kind of getting the joke. Or if it's just no, this is exactly how socials lean back into something, and now we'll get a little bit more length out of it. You would think it'd be that. Because like I said, when you are the sharks who go in after a business just had its most unfortunate season ever, has to close, people go out of business, this and that. Don't worry, you can dress up like Tinkerbell now because we're here to sell you this, even though there's one of these 4 miles from here. You would think they would have a little bit more of a sense of humor than that. You just think you would. That's exactly, if you ask me, that's what SNL is supposed to do. That type of bit is exactly what they're supposed to do. It's topical. And here's why I think so. If the meme is worthy and everybody passes it around every year, then SNL clearly is in the right lane here of spoofing Spirit Halloween, is what they're supposed to do. Wasn't the only thing that took place in the season premiere. There were political sketches, of course. And you'll have to forgive me, I don't know the young actor's name who's taking over the Trump role. I actually thought the impression was all right, though. I thought the impression was pretty good. Not the best one I've ever seen, but good enough, right? And then I'm at the podium kind of talking about how, the rallies, and I love my rallies, except for, when they try to shoot at me, and he had kind of said some things like that. And then they introduced J.D. Vance. And J.D. goes to, shake Trump's hand. Trump doesn't shake away. The Secret Service kind of takes there's people who are a little bit upset about this, right? Because we're talking to, and we're making rim shots out of this. And it's tough, and I understand that argument, I do. It's tough. But I understand SNL's role and what they have always thought it was and what I thought their role was when I was their target audience versus what I may think of what it is now. But your job is to be a commentary on what's happening. Those events did happen. They took place. I'm not so sure the standard just has to be you can never joke about XXX, put in, insert, whatever here, right? I'm not so sure that's it. To me, if you make the joke out of the guy waiting in the bushes 12 hours and this and that, and he doesn't get his chance and oh shucks, I missed it, then it's all like, well, now you're kind of cheerleading for something that's a little morbid and we shouldn't have had happen. Still creative, you're right, this and that, we could get into that conversation, but then I'd be like, all right, people got a right to be, cross with you right now. They got a little bit of a reason to be upset about it. But if I were a cast member, staff writer, producer at SNL, you can bet your ass while in that conference room that week, while people are having the conversation and somebody says, dude, you know how this works. We can't really joke about, dude, it was an assassination attempt. We can't, what are we doing here? I'm going to be the guy on the other side of the room that's like, I get it. You're right. We have to pay attention to sensibilities. I will make room. However, we are a social commentary program. If we don't commentate on the social things that have happened, we become what everybody is saying we have been for 15 years. Irrelevant. We can't, just because they're calling us that, doesn't mean we want to turn ourselves into it. 9 a.m., that first $1,000 keyword, rocking the bank review, we'll do that at night. Also, just a few minutes, pass out these tickets for the Haunted Schoolhouse and Laboratory, now open every weekend throughout November 2nd. Find those guys on Triplet Boulevard in Akron. Earlier in this year, there was a lot of conversation about college and universities in this country. And I've heard people like Gary Vee and even Elon Musk at times talk about how, well, I'm not sure college degrees matter as much as they used to anymore. And I remember saying about Elon and Gary Vee, I said, well, easy to say after you've made your way in the world, made the money and this and that. And what I like for guys in those situations, positions, if you will, to look past certain things and try to find qualified people and give them opportunities, even if they don't have this piece of paper in a nice little frame. Yes, that would be nice. But I thought it was dangerous to start telling people that college doesn't matter at all anymore, right? They say nearly 3 in 4 of us, 72% of Americans, those of you with a college degree think the degree was worth pursuing. I know plenty of people who went and have their degrees. Some of them are wasting it, for sure. I was not that long ago in a relationship with a woman who went to college. Was making good money because she went to college and had that degree. Would tell you she was underneath those loans and felt the pressure of it. She would still tell you at the end of the day, absolutely was worth it and happy she did it. And last I heard had switched positions, but I don't know. We haven't spoken in a little while now. But that, again, was only going to increase the compensation. So she always felt like, yes, I owe so much money, it's crazy, but the work I'm doing and what I'm doing was made possible through a degree, and that was rewarding, right? And I think that's true of some people I know who have degrees, that they were able to find jobs that they wanted to be dependent on. The student loan debt up, and I went to a program to do what I do, not necessarily college. I took out a loan to do it. That loan had been paid back off. It does that. I understand why people get a little bummed about it. Or say, I had to pay mine and now you're doing this. I think the fix there is you don't pay off the loans. You knew loans and you knew that there was interest and you knew this, how bad and this and that. Okay, the degree, we can talk about that, but you knew what the system was, right? Like, nobody didn't know what the system was. I think the way we do that, not that I'm smart enough to be able to figure this out, but just cap what the interest is. Again, going back to the ex-girlfriend, when we would sit down and we would talk about that situation, what she owed when she got out versus how much she's paid since she's been out and what she still owes, that's a crazy conversation. It is. That's a crazy conversation. You want to cap interest rates at X amount percent for educational loans and this and that? You could talk me into all kind of stuff that benefits the end user like that. Erasing responsibility? Yeah, I like that one a little less. Nearly half of those, 46% with a college degree, believe that they could have gotten their current job without a degree. No, what I think that they mean to say is they could be doing their job they're doing without a degree. You didn't necessarily need one. You wouldn't have got the job unless you have one. I can't tell you how many friends I know like that who are working at jobs and like literally will tell me, like, Dan, I'm literally robbing this place. I don't do anything all week long, not one thing. And nothing I learned in college is helping me at all. Like, not one thing. And so, like, that is the thing. I don't think you would have gotten the job. You don't necessarily need the degree once you're in the job. This is a career field. Like, I don't have a college degree. Plenty of people do. That's the strange. I remember my first radio agent told me that. She said, the maddening thing about what you do for a living is going to be this. The 40-year-old with a master's is going to work for the 19-year-old high school dropout. That's the crazy thing about broadcasting. She ended up being right about that. It was like, it's nuts. It's like there's no rhyme or reason. Can you do it? Are you talented? Do you know how to program? Do you know how to manage up? Do you know how to do it? It's like, that's what matters most. Now, a majority of postgraduates, 76%, and over half of undergraduates, about 59%, do not regret attending college. But 31% of those regret not taking a gap year. Okay, well, I think it's easy to regret not taking a gap year when you didn't do it. The amount of people who will take a gap year and it turns into a gap life, a lot. Looking at myself.
I'm driving home.
Take that gap year, it ends up being a gap life. I
And a long
understand
day at
people
work.
not regretting going to college. I regret not going. My buddy talks about this every time we get together. You know, old high school friends, you see him once a year, that whole thing. He goes, you get a little uncomfortable with this. He's like, you do. He's like, I feel it. He's like, I don't know why. He's like, dude, you've done well. You've done really well. These people listen to you on their way to these jobs that you think, he's like, you could have had, Dan, you could have had any one of these jobs as you went to college. And he's like, you could have had any of this. I was like, I know, that's why it bothers me, right? It's like, it really shouldn't get to you as much. And it's less years and years and less, and, you know, it's, you know, it goes by the wayside a little bit more and more and more and more. Why it bothers me now is, one of the things about my job that benefits you is collecting experience and story and relying on this happened to me and I went through this and that, right? And it's a experience, it's an American, well, it's a human experience that I didn't go through. I say that about childbirth, right? And like having kids and parenthood is the word I couldn't find right there. I say that about that. It's this thing, you're all in on this and I'm not. And it feels like an inside joke. It feels like the whispers. You walk into the room, people get quiet, they stop talking. It's this thing. Everybody's in on this thing, and I'm not. And that bothers me on some level. It's crazy because when I was in high school, the idea of moving away to go to college, like 4 or 5 states away, going away to college, sounded so good. Not good enough to hit the books, hard enough to do it, but it sounded so good to me. I honestly think that's why I relish living alone as an adult as much as I do. Is because I didn't go dorm life, live there. Now, don't get me wrong. I moved to Kent State. I did that. I lived in Holly Park. I did that. I didn't go to college, though.
The Stansberry Show.
It's a medicinal fact that rum gets a man's heart started in the morning.
On Rock 106.9.
We were talking a little college regret, or the lack thereof, as a matter of fact. Yes, let me scroll back up here. 3 and 4, 72% of Americans with a college degree think that their degree was worth pursuing. 59% with a college degree think their student loan investment was worth the cost. It all depends on whether or not you're applying the degree you used or whether or not you just needed